Alright, so next series we got the Knicks versus the Sixers. Very excited for this series, man. Two very good teams. The 76ers kind of slipped in the seeding because of Embiid's injury. They were pretty good when they had Embiid, so I'll get into that when I get to the Philadelphia side. First, we're going to go over the Knicks. So the series was 3-1 in favor of the Knicks. Without Rondo, because Randall's going to be hurt, he's going to be out the whole playoffs. When I go over their stats, without Randall, the Knicks have a 118.5 offensive rating, which would be top 5 over that span since Randall's injury, which is really good. And they have a 114.9 defensive rating without Randall, which is 14th in the league, so about kind of middle of the pack. So really good offensively, decently defensively, and that's kind of without LG Anunoby. He missed a lot of games due to his injury as well. So he's a very good defender, so I would take that into consideration as well. So Jalen Brunson, kind of like the go-to guy for the Knicks, kind of does everything for them. Very high usage rate. Some of his go-to play types are like the pick and roll. So he's actually averaging 1.05 points per possession in the pick and roll at 11.2 points. That's best in the league, so really good at that. We also have Donte DiVincenzo, who's a very good spot-up player. He's actually 92nd percentile in spot-up possessions, averaging 1.23 points per possession. Jalen Brunson is also very good at spot-ups as well at 1.43 points per possession. That's 98th percentile, just on less volume because Brunson has the ball most of the time. Jalen Brunson overall as a player, he's very well-rounded as a scorer. He's averaging 2.2 points in the restricted area at 60%. He's averaging 3.6 non-restricted area points, so that's kind of like your little short shots. 53%, best in the NBA, by the way. 1.7 points in the mid-range at 43%. And 2.3 points above the break at 39%. So a very well-rounded scorer. He doesn't really have one area he likes to go to. He kind of go to any area. Mid-range, layups, short shots, three-pointers. You can kind of do it all. So why that is important, all those stats I just rattled off for you guys, because the 76ers do a lot of drop coverage with Embiid. So drop coverage, I may explain this in a video before, but to you guys who may have just came to this video, I'll explain it again. So drop coverage is when the screener goes to set a screen and the guy guarding the screener is going to play back in the drop to kind of concede that mid-range shot so he doesn't get beat. If he wants to show, if he wants to switch. The Knicks don't want that, or the 76ers, I'm sorry, don't want that for Embiid, so they'll send him in the drop and have the guy guarding the ball, which would be guarding someone like Brunson, try to get back in front in order to not concede the switch. And then Joel Embiid could go back to his man, and then they could just play basketball from there. So like I said, that's very important because Brunson's very good at those in-between shots. So that may pose a problem for Philadelphia, just because Brunson's so good at that. And if you want to start to double him and put two of the ball, the Knicks have a lot of really good shooters as well. So some of those guys include Miles McBride, who's shooting 41% on three-pointers this year, OG Anunoby, which is shooting 38% on three-pointers this year, and Donte DiVincenzo, which is one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA this year. So really good options there. Their weakest link in terms of shooting in their like main lineups are like Josh Hart, shooting like 31% from three. But he's mainly a cutter anyway, so instead of standing behind the three, he'll cut when Brunson tends to get into those pick and roll actions. Strengths of the Knicks. They're very, 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 very good offensive rebounding team. Best in the league, actually. Best offensive rebounding team in the league. So they clean up their own misses a lot of times. So that gives them extra possessions. So even when they're not, great at making shots and their percentages aren't great, they could get second chance points, which is really good for them as well. They get 16.3 points off second chances, which is top 3 in the league, and the 76ers aren't great in that area. So if the Knicks to kind of do that, kind of keep Brunson on the ball, have him get going, feed their other guys, if the Philadelphia tends to double team Brunson or blitz him on screens, get other guys involved like DiVincenzo, Anunoby, McBride on open threes, I think they'll be in good shape. So as for Philadelphia, I actually think they have more talent than the Knicks. With Embiid, he was arguably the MVP before his injury. They were 31-8 on when Embiid was playing. Then after his injury, obviously they kind of fell apart. That's how they ended up in the 7th seed. They were the 7th seed. But during Embiid's play, they had a 122.4 offensive rating, which was second best in the league at the time. And it had a 111.9 defensive rating, so 112 defensive rating, which was 4th best in the league at that time. So a top 5 team in offense and defense when Embiid was playing. Really, really good team. X factors for the Philadelphia 76ers, Tyrese Maxey. So Tyrese Maxey is averaging 26 points versus the Knicks, which is pretty good. And I think he's going to be an X factor because Embiid and Brunson is essentially going to match each other production. I think Brunson's going to have the ball a lot more in his hand without Rondo. Very high usage rate. Embiid. He's going to dominate whoever as long as he's healthy. That's another X factor. Because Embiid had a knee injury coming into this series that he was dealing with. I believe it was a meniscus that he's coming back from. So meniscus injuries are kind of tricky coming back because it may be hard to move laterally. Maybe he's not moving like he wants to move or that he feels like he can. So that's something to kind of watch out for Philadelphia 76ers fans. So I think Maxey needs to step it up even more just because we don't know what Embiid's health was going to be wise. He may get hurt again, like knock on wood. But nothing's a guarantee in the playoffs, especially with a guy who has an injury history like Joel Embiid. So Maxey needs to step it up a little more. Sixers need to limit second chance points, give the Knicks less possessions. Less possessions equal less points. The 76ers already have a pretty good offense with Embiid. So if they can limit their possessions, they give the Knicks less chances to score more points. Can they contain Brunson? Brunson is the main guy on the Knicks. He's really everything for the Knicks. He's going to create shots, score his own shots, get free throws. That's all going to be based on Brunson. So can they contain him? Is it a Kelly Oubre who guards Jalen Brunson? Is it a Nick Batum? Me personally, I would put length on Brunson instead of like someone like shorter and faster. Just because Brunson is very strong, he actually plays in the post. So like he kind of thrives off of like guys who are like more stocky and smaller. He kind of just plays off of them and kind of gets his fouls and one and these little short shots. So someone with length could be able to contest him more and maybe make it a little more difficult for him. 76ers drop coverage. Can the guys on the ball get back in front? So like I explained earlier in our drop coverage, the guy guarding the ball, it's their job to get back in front so Joel Embiid doesn't have to switch onto a Jalen Brunson or something like that. Like the guard get back in front, Joel Embiid get back to his man. Now you're in the same predicament. Still a one-on-one. Instead of Nick Batum or Kelly Oubre guarding Brunson because he got back in front on the screen. Instead of Joel Embiid guarding the screen, which would be like a Mitchell Robinson or Isaiah Hartenstein. So can they do that? The Knicks are also a very slow-paced team. So that actually works in the favor of the Sixers just because of Embiid's injury. He's coming back from the injury, so maybe he doesn't have to get up the court as much just because they're not as fast of a team. So that may give him some breather room when trying to get back healthy for this series. But it's going to be a really good one. Really, really good one. So my prediction, it's really tough to go with because I do think Philadelphia is the more talented team. But with Embiid's health, I'm kind of like 50-50 with it. So I'm going to say Knicks in 7. Knicks in 7 is my prediction.